Hello and welcome to this series of LinkedIn Live Voices of Leadership. I'm Kathy Eastwood, your host and founder of E equals Y. Each week, we explore the fascinating world of leadership featuring voices from various generations, industries, and backgrounds. A team's job is to deliver business results. The role of the leader is to empower, inspire, and enable the people and team to deliver those results. And there's actually a repeatable formula to how you drive that success. The E3 leadership code: express plus engage plus execute, powered by emotions. However, each leader's approach to applying that leadership code is unique because there's no one way to lead. And our live sessions aim to showcase these diverse voices of leadership. So we'll meet different leaders and uncover what drives them, explore their unique leadership style, and really see how they adapt in different situations. So before we get started, please use the chat and let us know who you are, where you're coming in from, and tell us something that you're excited about in 2025. Let's make this as interactive as possible, and please ask questions as we go along because we're ready to answer them. So today I have the pleasure of introducing a very special guest, Jim Sallusto. So Jim is currently the founder of Cayuga Technologies and advisor to many tech companies. He brings over 40 years of experience in strategic sales and business operations. Throughout his career, he's not only built legendary teams, but he's also aligned himself with best-in-class companies and top technology solution providers. And this has ensured that he always has access to cutting-edge expertise in every engagement. Now, here's the thing. Jim has this innate ability to articulate complex technology and business objectives in a way that's clear and relatable, making it easy for teams to come together and drive towards common goals. He's always been a figure of integrity and empathy, qualities that really make him a trusted advisor. And I don't use that word lightly because Jim and I go back for over 20 years to our days in Mercury and even a little bit at HP. I was in pre-sales at the time and I was supporting Jim. And Jim really taught me what it was to be an account executive. He wasn't a sales guy. He taught me about building trust and understanding not just the business needs, but the human needs behind them. And I got to tell you, Jim, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah,
I loved when we were building and closing really complex and sizable transactions with the team because I feel like we were having fun at the same time. It was more than just a job. So, Jim, really excited to have you here today. Thank
yeah.
you for joining me. Um, and I want to share something that's been coming up lately. And, in many sales sessions that we've done over the years, what's one question we would ask everyone in the room? Like we'd ask them who in the room is in sales, right? And then we'd say, hey, everyone's in sales, whether you're in finance, whether you're in products, we're all part of the sales team. Well, quite honestly, that's the same thing with leadership. Everybody is in a leader, and we are all leaders in our own right. Whether we manage people or not, leadership's about influence, guiding our team and our clients. And that's going to be key for our conversation today, from concept to solution, not only with expertise, but also by forging genuine connections. And I know, Jim, whether you knew it or not, you've been using this E3 leadership code for years. So let me stop
Yeah.
talking and let me turn it over to you. Please welcome again, but tell
Thank
the
you.
audience a little bit about yourself, how you got here, and what you're really passionate about.
Sure. Well, that was a very glowing introduction. Thank you. One of my favorite questions I used to ask is not who's in sales, but I used to like to ask, "What are we having for lunch?" That was also that was also one of my favorite questions. But yeah, I've been at it for 40 years, maybe a little longer, but I hate to feel old. I don't feel old. But it's been a great career with great companies, and I've learned a lot. I started my career at the New York Telephone Company, and then AT&T, and then MCI, which was a very, very notable experience, which maybe we'll talk about. And then from there, I actually got recruited by my customer, which is another good story to talk about. I went from JP Morgan Chase to AIG, and then I went back to the sales world, which is where I think we interconnected at Mercury and HP. From there, I went on to NetApp and ran their service provider business. After that, I spent some time with a local technology partner. Um, I spent the last year doing a lot of research and reflecting and really analyzing the market, uh, which means I spoke to a lot of people, customers, solution providers, and to really see, how things have evolved and to see what their views are and all those things, which really helps guide me um, in how I could, be the most impactful to customers, to sales organizations. And, one of the things that I've done throughout my career is I've always been very willing to help people, and I still do it now, whether it's customers through engagements, but I feel like I do a lot of good coaching with a lot of the technology partners. I often get calls and questions on, what do you think about this, or how should I do this? And that's one of the things I enjoy the most is you can call it mentoring, you can call it whatever you want, you can call it dumb advice, but I do enjoy sharing that. But what did you want to talk about? Leadership styles?
Yeah, tell me about your leadership style. How do you show up? Because it's funny, as you're saying, mentoring and coaching,
Yeah,
that is a
yeah.
leadership style, right?
Yeah, well, the first thing I would say about it, Kathy, is I'm probably a very different person today than I was early on. So I would say one of the secret sauces to leadership is you need to always be learning, right? You need to pay very good attention to what you do and what works and what doesn't work. And I look back sometimes and I chuckle at how I led then versus how I led now. And I don't know if it's immaturity, I don't know if it's experience, probably all of the above, but you need to always be learning, right? Good leadership is about understanding your people. And I like to say, you have to meet them where they live. And I know you talk a lot about generational differences and this and that, and it's really very true. If I'm talking to, and I don't know all the generations, so I can't name them, but if I'm talking to younger people, right, I'm gonna get to them and connect with them probably on a very different level than I would with someone who's my age, right?
Mhm.
And that has nothing to. That's just the way things are, right? The way younger people like to text.
Yep.
I like to talk, right? I find people my age much prefer speaking than texting. And I have found many times that texting is extremely efficient in some cases and almost disastrous in others because people can often misconstrue the meaning of a text. They're usually written quickly and in haste while you're doing three other things, and it's just something to think about. But when I think about leadership, I'm probably an over communicator. And if I think of today, and when I feel like I'm leading a team or an engagement or whatever it is I'm doing, the first thing I like to do is go through excruciating detail in explaining what we're doing, why we're doing it, what the mission is, what the great outcome should be, and then make sure each and every person that's on the team or working with me on the project understands it. I also like to know if they have a problem with it or something's bothering them about it or they don't understand something. And unlimited questions are welcome. In the end, right, we need to accept the mission, right? So that leadership and empathy and emotion, 90%, but 10%, at the end of the day, you've got to do the job,
Yeah.
right? And I think that speaks to accountability. So on that, I would like to say I'm not interested in where people work or when people work unless they need to be on a meeting call at a certain time. But what I'm interested in is their results. And I think it's very important, and this is one of those learnings. and I think many of us may be guilty of. Not only do we want you to do something, but we'd like you to do it the way we would do it, right? And I've learned from my own children, right, that that's not possible. If I ask them to do something, they get it done, but they don't do it the same way I do, and you learn to accept the result, and it is the result that's most important.
Well, and it's interesting as you say. So, one of the things you talked about is really over communicating and setting it up for success, right? And with the E3 leadership code, we talk about expressing the end vision, which is what you're saying.
Yes.
And it's funny because the reason I found that's so critical is that people do have a different way of doing things.
Yeah.
So if you guys are all, if everyone's in agreement of what the end result looks like, there's a lot of different ways that you can get to that result.
Yes.
And I often talk about, like, if you're in sales and your company is used to doing 200,000 deals, and that's the average deal size, and to grow by $1 million you would automatically think I need to do 5 deals. But if you say, hey, we want to grow by 1 million, this is why, suddenly someone might say, hey, I know how to get 1 deal for $1 million. We don't have to do it the same way, and you get those different ideas. And that's, I think, the value when you can lead with that end vision in mind. You can learn how other people think about it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one other thing that I'm very happy about is I always prided myself on trying to hire people that were much smarter than me. And I not only does that bother me or threaten me, I welcome it so much, and that is really something I strive for. And it's not really that hard to do because I'm not that smart, but it's so great to have fresh ideas, to have people that think out of the box. And that would lead me to just another leadership thing. If I think, I know one of your questions is, who is one of your best leaders, a great leader versus a bad leader. Without naming names, without naming companies, the great leaders were those who put their faith and confidence in you to get it done, who did all of the things we just described. They articulated the vision, but they gave you the freedom to execute. And the other important point, they were always there to support you in the event you hit a bump, a political issue, especially within a large organization or whatnot. And the bad leaders, right, if we're going to use the words good and bad, or less effective leader, are those who, they're not there themselves, right? So if they're not whole, if they're not good, if they're insecure, all traits that I've seen with bad leaders, they're narcissistic. They need to steal the show. They need to be the show. That makes it very difficult for the good performers. It makes it really easy for the mediocrity. And listen, there are many people, and they're not bad people, who prefer to be told exactly what to do, and that's okay. That works too. There's plenty of room for those people. But if you want to have breakout success, right, it's going to come from those other people we're talking about, the ones you cut loose, the ones who you really feel you've hired someone brighter, and more aggressive or whatnot. And that these are just all the dynamics. It's not about good and bad. It's about what works, and it's about results, and that's what we strive for.
Yeah. And something I'm gonna, going back to the days of us working on some big deals, right? You really did like to bring different ideas and you were open to it. You also had a lot of gratitude, right? And you were appreciative and you treated everyone with kindness.
Yeah.
And I think that's another big trait which really helps motivate people.
I think I do two things, right? When it comes to the team or the organizations working with me, I like to give everyone their stage time, their place in the sun, their opportunity to shine and display their work. I like to also make all of the supporting people, which in any kind of complex transaction, there's business development, there's legal, there's right, all financial. You have to bring all of those people together to understand what the goal is, right? And that's what I think we were able to do very effectively. And that's how you get things done that may be non-traditional or out of the box, because every single person on that team, whether they're front facing to the customer or playing the supporting role of helping you conclude a transaction or whatnot, right? They feel like they're included, they feel like they're involved, they feel like they have a say, and I'll tell you, it works wonders.
Yeah.
When it comes to the customer facing side, right? You need to do much of the same. You need to include the customer. First and foremost, you need to establish intent. You need to establish trust. You need your customer knowing, right? The end goal is the customer needs to know that you truly have their best interests at heart. They also know that you have to work within the guardrails of your company rules and regulations. You can't give the store away or whatnot, right? But at the end of the day, they just need to know you there. And I will tell you, that is how I got hired at at Chase, at J.P. Morgan. Is They were my account when I worked at MCI, and we just had. I started when I started with MCI and Chase. Our revenue was less than a few $100,000 a year, and when I left, it was over 100 million,
Wow.
and that was over a 9-year period. And a lot of great things happened along the way. And as you can imagine, back in the days, and this may predate some people listening, but these were back post divestiture when MCI was competing fiercely with AT&T, and all of that business, 100% of it, came on the backs of AT&T. It was all business that we won for better service and whatnot. And that was the basis and the foundation for me, getting recruited by the customer. And it feels really good, when you get it right and you have good success.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about sales, and I don't think everyone thinks about it this way, but you really are building a team, right? You're
Yeah.
building the team with your client, and there's multiple people from different functions,
Hmm.
right? With a common goal, but you've got to get everyone on the same page.
Yeah. It's true, and it was just an exciting time all around. The team went from 2 to 30, and everybody was excited, and everybody was passionate about what they were doing, and everybody knew exactly what they had to do. Everybody played their role, and same with the customer, right? They got to know every one of those people on the team, and it just really worked out very well.
Yeah, that's great. And when so you've been involved in a ton of transformations, right? Like when
Mhm.
you're bringing, implementing new technologies, driving new initiatives. So obviously having that vision clearly articulating, what are some of the other keys for success
Mhm.
you've found?
Right. So after J.P. Morgan, I went over to AIG,
Hmm.
and my initial role was running global telecommunications and messaging, and then the internet got moved. And by the time 2 years in, I was running all architecture and delivery. Um, for everybody who knows me, they know I'm not an engineer. I don't even consider myself a strong technologist. But just to kind of reiterate some of the things we said, what I did, right, is I'll say I rebuilt, because there was a lot of change. I rebuilt the teams and hired really great people, really smart people, all at least technically smarter than me. And what they truly hired me for was not my technical chops, but was my ability. And this is what I spent 85% of my time on, working with the business, the AIG business heads, to explain what we needed to do, why we were doing it. Right? You're talking about transformation, why we had to do this and that, and how it was going to change. And we're making these big investments, and this is why. And you know what? It is going to cost a little bit more money, but these are all the benefits. And that was the big success at AIG, is we were able to articulate the plans, because anyone who works in corporate America knows that all you need is a couple of no's to throw those pebbles in the gears, right, and really slow you down. So I spent a lot of time on that, and built these great relationships with what we would call the line of business CIOs, right? So they knew everything we were doing. We'd meet regularly, right? We had a PMO and what have you, and we would articulate it all. And they bought in and they supported. And in the end, things got a lot better.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting as you're talking. I'm reminded often. I'm in a meeting somewhere, and I just feel like everything's going off the rails. Right? You know something's not right, and then I ask the question: What are we doing? Why are we doing it? Where are we trying to get to? And it's a question people are often scared to ask because they walk into a meeting and they think they should know
yeah,
what's happening. But you're reminding the audience how important it is for clarity, right? And consistent clarity. I am sure you didn't define the vision one time and walk away from it and say, okay, good luck. Let me know how it goes.
yeah. Well, I have to admit, I've been accused of repeating myself, and I've been told, especially by some close to me, Jim, you already told us that. And my response is, hey, I'm old. I'm getting old. I'm forgetful, but that's not really it. I said, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with repeating because I repeat it to myself almost every day. I wake up every day thinking about what I have to do, but as important, or maybe more important, why I'm doing it.
Yep.
Why am I doing it? Right. And I think the why is probably more important than the what, right? Because that's what everybody could get their head around. You could tell them what we're going to do. They may not understand that. But if you explain to them why we're doing it, what the results will be, and what the benefits will be to both sides, it anybody can understand that.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes you have to be careful because when you go too far in the what we need to do, you end up in that telling them what to do and you miss out
Right.
on all of that opportunity to hear other people's point of view.
Right.
Right. So we actually had one of our listeners was talking about leadership and leading through change, and how you have to think about the people. So you're saying, like, when you were talking about your kids, that they do things differently.
Yeah.
Right. And so the question is, how does a leader give trust in others when it's a mission critical task? So have you had that experience where you're like, oh, this isn't comfortable, but I still need to give
No,
trust?
you have to do it. Yeah, so you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right?
Mm,
That's something I try to live by, right? Because you can never get everybody to do it your way. Um, but yeah, you what do you do? What I do is I explain the mission. We talk about it, and I look for confirmation. Do you think you can get this done? What I don't do is say, this is how you should do it. I may give some advice, or I've done this in the past. This is how I approached it, but I don't give everyone the recipe of step by step on how to, cook the meal. Uh, what I do look for, are you good with this? Do you feel like you can accomplish it? And as important as that, uh, I watch it. I watch it closely in the very beginning. And if it's trending wrong, right, then we need an intervention. If it's trending right, we talk about it less and we review it less as long as it's moving in the right direction.
yeah. And that's really bringing you then around. Like, so when we talk about the E3 leadership code, express the end vision, engage people, you've talked a lot about that, having empathy, understanding that people are different, but it's that execution, right?
Yeah.
How many leaders do we know that have a great vision or is everyone's buddy, but forget to execute, right?
At
They
the
just
end of the day, that's right. At the end of the day, you must execute. And if you don't execute, everything I've talked about for the last 25 minutes is worthless.
yeah,
People have to execute. We all
yeah,
have to execute. And that's part of understanding the why and the vision and what we're all about and what we wake up to do every day.
yeah. And I assume a lot of that brings in, accountability, having difficult conversations. Um, and I know you and I have had difficult conversations at time,
Yeah.
but I trusted you and I knew your intent was good and I was okay with it.
That's one of those things that I think I believe I've gotten better at as over the years. Probably back then more gruff and what have you, and now more diplomatic about it. Message is the same. The results could be the same if you can't get it done, but you could be a lot nicer about delivering the messages. So I'm very thoughtful about that because there's no upside to hurting someone's feelings. There's no upside to demoralizing someone, beating them down, demonstrating to them that I'm the boss and you're not. None of that has any place in business today, in my opinion. And for those who do it right, and there's many styles, and I still see plenty of it. It to me, it's bad business, and it demonstrates, in my opinion, a personal weakness, right? In the person administering the pain.
Yeah. Because I mean, from my experience, yes, you can get some things done quickly, but then it's not sustainable,
Right.
right? When
Right.
you think about you and I have been working together for over 20 years, why is that?
Hmm.
It's I trust you, you care, and I feel good about it, and I want to show up again. And I
Yeah.
think most of your clients, your teams, anybody that works with you, I think would say the same thing.
Yeah. I've never really had a problem making friends and keeping friends and keeping customers and growing customers. There's no magic. It's just I work very hard to try and do the right thing.
Excellent. So tell me what's next for you. What are you looking at? Where are things going for you?
Well, I've got this company, Cayuga Technologies, which is very focused on data management, data architectures, working with products like Snowflake and Databricks. You've got to be involved in AI, so you can't have this conversation without talking about AI or large language models and what have you. But as you talk to more and more people, uh, I'm being asked all the time to get involved in this and that, and I'm probably going to spread my wings a little more. Um, whether it's doing some more traditional IT work in some way, shape, or form, and it's just a lot of discussions going on right now. So I'm sure that in the coming weeks, months, there'll be more changes for me. I think I'm probably going to take on some additional things, and I'll have to come back and talk to you again and talk about all of those.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I'd love to hear it because I mean, you really have a way of bringing people together, being able to paint that picture and drive success, which I think is valuable to any company. And somehow you know how to get people the answers quickly and getting them to their solutions, which is the most important thing, right?
It's funny you say that because with my past year of just reflecting and researching and talking to so many people, that's what it's come down to, especially on the company side. Uh, when you look at technology, it's moving so fast. And whether you're a 50-person company or you're a JP Morgan Chase, right, or a Fortune 10, you never have enough time and you never have enough resources and people to do the things you need to do, especially around researching new technologies, understanding new technologies and how they could fit or potentially help you with some challenges or objectives you may have. And that to me seems like a really good gap to fill, because there's nobody who doesn't welcome or not welcome that type of help, right? And that speaks to things like you used the word before, and I like a trusted advisor and whatnot. So
Yeah,
probably a lot more of that type stuff.
yeah, I like it. And I think you and I have had this conversation numerous times. What's the one thing people wish they had more of? And it tends to be time,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of us know what we need to do, how we need to do it, but it's having that time and those reminders to go back to the basics and what are the goods. And as you focus on the technologies, that's one of the things we're doing at E equals Y, right? Really
Yeah.
focusing on how do you show up with the right behaviors and the leadership fundamentals to help make sure that you're following how to drive success.
Yeah, and not to make it a commercial, but that's why I think some of the work that you're doing with E equals Y is so meaningful and so valuable, whether it be for the business or whether it be for sales teams, right? To just really dig into this, right? And I know you have a lot of great programs that in not too long a time can really help get people in the right place and get their collective heads around this. So kudos to you on the work you're doing and continued success. I know you're already doing very well, but continued success.
Thank you. You know, I'm passionate. I love partnering with leaders like yourself who want to drive change, but know people are key to the success. And that's where the fun is. So
It's all
Jim,
about the people.
it is all about the people. Amen. There we go. So believe it or not, and you and I talked about this before we got started, that this half hour would go really quickly. I'd love for you to leave the audience with some advice. Maybe it's some advice that
Hmm.
you've given your kids, but what would you recommend, what they should concentrate to drive success going forward?
Okay, well, that's an interesting question. I mean, there's a lot of things, a lot of places I could take that. I would say if you're a salesperson, become a great listener and spend a lot of time seeking to understand your customers, the company they work for, what the business objectives are at the macro level, and what their personal, goals are and their team goals, their department goals and whatnot. And everything you do, regardless of what you sell, really needs to align with their goals. I would say, I said it earlier, you've got to gain their trust. They have to believe that you have their best interest in mind. They know you need to sell your product, right? They know that. But you do it in a way where you can achieve both objectives. And that's practice and that's thought. And it starts with, just some other general ones. And these come with, I found with age, is be more empathetic, be kind, be open minded, listen well, and have a genuine interest in helping people. And if you help people, they will help you. It's guaranteed they will help you. There will be some that never even realized they were helped. So they may not help you or they may not have time. But for the most part, the majority of those people, right, it comes back. You do good things, it comes back to you. And I think that's a good practice.
I love it. And Carrie here summed it up so well, Jim. Like, be a great listener, seek to understand, ensure everything you do aligns to achieve success, and build trust. I
Yes.
love it. Thanks so much, Jim. I really appreciate you coming on. I hope you'll come back because I'm anxious to hear what's next for you. So maybe we can have you back on in a couple of months and we can learn a bit more from you.
No problem.
Great.
Thank you, Kathy. I really appreciate you having me.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks all. Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone.